The Brothers War has a lot of interesting goodies hidden in every single kind of pack that is in this set. But what exactly are retro artifacts, and which ones can you find? Welcome on in, Dragon Folk. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I know I am. Thank you so much for choosing to be here today. I am here to talk about the ever so, well, I don't know, I think a lot of people are indifferent about this. The retro artifacts that are going to be in the Brothers War. Last time we talked about these retro artifacts was way back when we found out about serialized cards. Except back then, the only serialized card we knew of was Wormcoil Engine. Now we have a whole slew of artifacts, 63 to be specific, and we know all of their different variants that you can find in packs. So I'll go ahead and just quickly explain what a retro artifact is, and then we'll go over some of the top 10 that I have seen going for on TCGPlayer as of right now. So a retro artifact is a card you're going to be able to find in every single pack. That means draft boosters, set boosters, collector boosters. You're able to find one of these retro artifacts in either retro or schematic. So both of these obviously can come foil and non-foil. That all just depends on whatever it is. I'm pretty sure they come foil. But I did want to make sure that you are aware that you're going to get one in every pack. Now, of course, the uncommon ones are going to be much easier to find, as opposed to the rares and the mythics being harder to find as you go up in rarity, but you're at least getting some kind of retro artifact. And these are artifact cards that have existed in Magic's history over time, and are very popular artifacts to be used in plenty of decks. Now, just as a reminder, though, these are not going to be standard legal. These are all cards that have been printed in previous, sets and have been reprinted here in a special frame to kind of go over the, retro artifact kind of era, since the Brothers War focuses a lot on artifacts. But if any of these artifacts are in fact in the standard as of right now, they will be legal. But just remember that if you get it out of a pack, that doesn't mean you're able to play it in standard. Make sure to look up what this is from and where you can play these cards in whatever format. You're pretty much good to play them in Commander. So if most of you, I imagine, play Commander, you can use that. So with these being the case, of course, you can also find a serialized version of any of these artifacts. Now, I'm not going to go over all 63 here today. I'm pretty much going to go over the top 10 that I see are going for quite a bit on the open market right now. But I did want to let you all know that there are serialized versions of every single one of the ones that I'm talking about today, as well as the other 53 different retro artifacts that are going to be printed in this set. So you can only find serialized cards in the collector boosters. So if you're looking to hunt for serialized cards, that's what you're going to want to buy. But otherwise, you can get any of these cards that I'm going to talk about here today in their retro or schematic versions in draft packs or even set packs. So keep that in mind when you're opening product. But without further ado, let's talk about the top 10 most expensive retro artifacts on the open market right now. Now, another disclaimer, these are not going to be the final prices. These cards are going to be one in every pack, not these specific ones, but you are able to find a retro artifact in every pack. So this is much akin to the Mystical Archives, if you are aware of what those are. Essentially, these prices are all inflated due to hype right now. The set is not due to release until the 18th of November. So I would not go about purchasing any of these until about 30 days after the set has been released. And the reason I say that is because if this product is going to be opened on the off chance that the entirety of the populace of Magic the Gathering players start just rioting and not buying new Magic the Gathering product, you're going to see a lot of these on the open market, regardless of whether or not they're mythic or they're rare or they're, uncommon. You're going to see a lot more uncommons than you are rares and mythics, but these are going to be very much so littered throughout the entirety of the open market. So any of the prices I talk about today are inflated. You'll probably find them for about 50% of their price, maybe if not a little bit less, on the open market in about 30 days after release, sometimes even a week after release. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get on into it. So the first one we're going to talk about is Mesmeric Orb. Mesmeric Orb is the lowest of the top 10 right now, is the number 10 slot. And in its schematic form, it's going for about $12 right now. And it's kind of neat because this is obviously a pretty neat artifact for those decks who run mill. Obviously, with a artifact that has every permanent untapped, has that player mill a card, is pretty good. Although you do have to remember that it does affect you as well. So just keep that in mind if you are going to be playing this in your mill deck. But if your opponent has a whole bunch of creatures and they want to untap them at the beginning of their turn, well, you can always go ahead and just play Mesmeric Orb and on the end of your turn. And by the time it's their turn, they'll have to mill all of those cards. And if you can destroy this artifact before it actually begins your untap step, then you won't have to mill any cards. So it works out. And even if you only have to mill one, that's fine, right? Milling one is so much better than milling 20. So work that out. But it's a very nice artifact. It seems to be number 10 on the list here. And we're going to see whether or not there's anything better going on as far as the retro artifacts go. The next retro artifact we're going to talk about is the Platinum Angel. Now, Platinum Angel has been pretty popular in plenty of decks I've seen just simply because of its condition to allow you to never lose and your opponent to never win. I mean, you really can't lose with that, although it is unfortunate because it is a 7-cost 4/4 Angel, and all it has is flying. So this just dies to removal in any way, shape, or form. But Platinum Angel is a pretty nice card amongst decks that are trying to stick out the long run, and maybe their opponents do not have as much removal in their deck as they should, and Platinum Angel will certainly have a nice place in their deck. Now, this one is only running about $10, which is significantly less, I should say, $2 less than the Mesmeric Orb, but it is right up there on the list as far as market price goes to be a little bit higher. We will see how well that fares, but with this one being a mythic, this one is going to be harder to pull. So Platinum Angel, you're probably not going to be seeing as much, but overall, definitely going to be a great card. These are all going to be in schematic versions also, so the schematic version probably going to be the most sought after out of all of these. But schematics, again, are going to be harder to find. The normal versions are going to be much easier to find as far as their variants in packs. Another awesome artifact sitting at number 8 is Helm of the Host. Now, this is a pretty crazy equipment card and definitely pretty great in legendary decks. Something that you could even use for your Dahada deck that you may have gotten when you were picking up those precons for Dominaria United. Helm of the Host allows you to create, at the beginning of your combat step, create a copy of the equipped creature. If it's legendary, the copy is not legendary, and the copy will gain haste. So the token doesn't go away. You get to keep the copy, and it's not legendary, which means you can continue to copy your creatures over and over and over again. So anything with ETB effects, anything with additional Lord abilities or such, that is going to definitely be very helpful in regards to your playing. But Helm of the Host is a pretty terrifying thing, and even at its schematic right now, it's looking at about $12. This is definitely going to be going for a bit less, depending on how many are pulled. But again, another mythic on the list, so it is going to be harder to find, especially in its schematic, as far as the rest of the retro artifacts go. Number 7 on the list is Aetherflux Reservoir. Now, Aetherlux Reservoir is a very interesting card. I've never seen it actually be used in the way that it should, but I imagine if you are playing a huge life gain deck, this is definitely going to be something that you might want to put in there. Obviously, with the ability to pay 50 life and deal 50 damage to any creature or player, this is definitely a popular card amongst life gain decks because, well, if you can continue to get more life and you have a free 50 life to spare because you're just gaining and gaining and gaining life, you can just target one of your opponents and pop them. Unless, of course, they're playing life gain too, which is a little unfortunate for you, but 50 damage is 50 damage. You can't really sneeze at that. You do also get the Storm ability on there that allows you to gain 1 life for every spell you've cast this turn. So essentially, you can play 1 spell, you gain 1 life, you play another spell, you gain 2 life, 3 spells on your turn, you gain 3 life. So that's 6 life right there. Pretty powerful stuff. That can kind of snowball in and of itself. It's a very great life gain artifact and has its use in many life gain decks. It's also sitting at about $13 before sales. Obviously, these are all pre-sale prices. This one may go down a little bit more, but again, at a Mythic, it's going to be a little harder to pull. We have our first rare coming up at number 6, being Ashnod's Altar. Ashnod's Altar getting a reprint in here at about $14 at its going rate as of right now. And all it is sacrifice a creature and add 2 colorless mana. So it's pretty straightforward. If your deck runs a lot of creatures, you can always just sack a creature, create something. You don't have to tap the artifact or anything, so you can do this indefinitely. If you're trying to pay for an X cost in some decks, this is definitely going to be something to look forward to. But, of course, right, the schematic version just looks so creepy. And Ashnod's Altar does have a place in plenty of decks, especially things like Aristocrat or just any token generation, green deck could use something like Ashnod's Altar and really make a difference. So this is something to pick up if you like doing any of those shenanigans, but that is sitting at our number 6 slot. Our number 5 slot, sitting at about $14 again, is Unwinding Clock. This one is going to allow you to untap all of your artifacts on your opponent's untap steps. So this is going to be great for those artifact-heavy decks. You're looking at things like mana rocks, even artifact creatures, all the things that you're going to want to be untapped so you can utilize their mana, or you can utilize their other abilities that they may have if you tap them down. It's going to be a great way to utilize that. And currently at about $14 for the schematic version, not too shabby. A great pickup at number 5, and not too expensive. Again, another rare, so you're going to see a lot more of these compared to the Mythics. But overall, a great pickup for many artifact decks. These are very, very great artifacts that they're choosing for something like, this set. It's very, very generic, around the board kind of deal. Number 4 on our list is none other than Thorn of Amethyst. This one is just Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, but in an artifact. Essentially, it makes non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. So something like this is great to run in a weenie deck of sorts. Very small mana cost creatures that you want to, really, really widen the board fast. You're essentially using this to stop your opponent from playing any kind of board wipes early on, or try to go off with any counter spells or anything of the sort. This allows you to really set up your board without any kind of hesitation or any kind of resistance from your opponents. So not too bad. Another rare on the list, and sitting at $23 as far as our number 4 slot goes. This is almost a $10 bump from number 5 to number 4. But this does seem to be something that is sought after. I'm sure plenty of Commander players are going to want this card. And even a pickup at its schematic version. Let's say this is halved, right? You're looking at what? It's like $11.50 for this card. That's pretty good, considering. So, not a bad pickup. Something you can always look into if you are planning to do a very creature-heavy deck. this might be the artifact for you. On to the number 3, a mythic at $27 right now, pre-sale price. You're looking at the ever so famous Worm Coil Engine in schematic. So, Worm Coil Engine, of course, we've talked about this previously. All it is just a body that when it dies, gets 2 bodies. It also has Death Touch and Lifelink as one creature, but if it does die, it becomes a 3/3 Phyrexian worm with Death Touch and also a 3/3 Phyrexian worm with lifelink. So definitely something to look into. Luckily, this is a creature, again, without any color, so it can be used in every single kind of deck. I think that's why I really do like the addition of these retro artifacts in this set, because with them being colorless artifacts, most of them, I'm pretty sure, you are able to utilize them in a plethora of decks, especially in things like Commander, because Commander is big on color identity, and with none of these cards having a color identity, you're essentially able to utilize them however you wish, and some people even just make a colorless Commander deck where they just make that happen. But this next one is not colorless, and I'll go ahead and tell you why. At our number 2 slot, we have Ramos Dragon Engine. So Ramos is, of course, a fantastic card utilized for the Dragon Tribal stuff. Dragon Tribal is a very popular Commander Tribal deck, and you see a lot of people playing it, more specifically the 5-color version of it. And Ramos is actually one of the more popular cards to be put in there, which is why it's going for about $30 pre-sale as its schematic version right now. The reason this card does so well in Dragon Tribal, or really anything that has 5 colors, because this doesn't just have to be used in dragons, essentially it's a flying 4/4 dragon that you do have to pay 6 for. And whenever you cast a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Ramos for each of that spell's colors. So if you play something like a Golgari command of sorts, right? A black-green command, that will put 2 +1/+1 counters on Ramos. If you play something that is 5 colors, you will put 5 +1/+1 counters on Ramos. And his secondary ability is what essentially gives him a color identity. He obviously can only be used in 5-color decks, so just keep that in mind. But you can remove 5 of the counters on Ramos and add double Wooburg. So that's white, white, blue, blue, black, black, red, red, green, green. And that's 10 mana of all 5 colors. And you can only activate it once each turn. But if you play one 5-color card, and then you utilize his ability to then get 10 mana, you can play 2 more 5-color cards from your hand. It's the amount of sheer mana value that Ramos has is insane. So this is why he is utilized a lot. He is also a dragon, so dragon synergy does work well with him. Even though he is an artifact, he does have the dragon subtype, so that is something to look into if you're planning to run 5-color dragons. So Ramos is definitely going to be a nice pickup. Again, another mythic, so going to be harder to find. But a very, very good mythic if you do end up picking it up. Speaking of really, really good mythics, if you're able to pick them up, we are going to go on to our number 1 slot. Before I do that, though, just wanted to say thank you all so much for watching this video. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We're about 250 subscribers away from 1,000. So with your help, I can certainly make that happen. You can also like the video while you're down there too. I'd also love to hear from all of you in the comments down below about which retro artifact is your favorite. If not just from out of all of these, out of any of the retro artifacts that are being put into the Brothers' War. But without further ado, let's talk about the number 1 slot here. Going for about $51 market price as of right now, the schematic version of Mox Amber. Now, I'm not too sure on the actual power behind Mox Amber, but any artifact that is a mana rock that you can drop for 0 is usually pretty nice, especially since this one can be for pretty much any color. So if you play something like a 5-color deck and you have a 5-color creature on the board, you are able to use one of any mana from that creature. You also can utilize this artifact in just about any deck, because as long as your colors are what they should be, you can utilize this as a mana rock for any of those colors. So it's a great pickup. Definitely one of the better known mana rocks out of most of the mana rocks, other than like Mox Emerald or Mox Ruby, Mox Opal, yada yada, right? Those are obviously well farther down. And those don't even do the same thing as this, right? The Mox Amber is definitely nice in regards to you being able to utilize just about any mana that you want, and a mana rock that you can drop for 0, especially in many artifact decks that require you to have artifacts on the field to do extra stuff. Anything to generate extra mana early on in the game is pretty good. I'm sure a lot of people can combo off with just a Mox Amber and a few other things on their board turn 1. So that is why I'm sure this is fetching a pretty penny. Now, again, a mythic, so it is going to be very hard to find, and I wouldn't be surprised that they reduce the print run for Mox Amber specifically to make it harder to be found in this set. And especially, I mean, the serialized version of Mox Amber is going to be insane as far as price goes. The schematic and the non-schematic version of it, I don't think those are going to go for that much. I think this $50 price point for Mox Amber is definitely going to drop. Maybe $30. Maybe it'll sit at $25. Right around there. It's about half. But of course, this all depends on how much of this product is opened. This is where we're going to get into the part where I'm just going to make a quick rant before we end the video here. If nobody opens this product, these are going to be more expensive. And then people are going to want to open the product because they're going to think it's a quick way to get free money out of buying Magic product. And then they're going to start selling them when they start pulling them. And then arbitrage is going to happen. And then the boxes are going to go up in price, or the artifacts will go down in price. One of those two will happen, and it'll be more than likely that the artifacts will go down in price. So if you don't feel comfortable, I just want you to know, with new product these days, there's almost never, ever a FOMO. Okay? Ever. Don't worry about there being a FOMO for any of this stuff. This product and its contents, right, whether it be the actual set of the Brothers' War or these retro artifacts, they will be around for a long time. And there will be a lot of them on the market. And because of that, you need to keep that in mind. Don't worry about going out and buying like 200 schematic Mox Ambers or Ramos Dragon Engines. Don't worry about going to get all the non-schematic versions of them, just the regular retro versions. Don't worry about trying to play some kind of speculative route on any of these cards. It's not worth it. These cards are going to be around for a long time. There's going to be a lot of them. It's brand new product. It's not like it's, reserve list stuff. So don't worry if you don't want to get it right now. Maybe you want to get some later on down the line. Maybe you want to collect all of the retro artifacts in all of their different varieties. And then maybe you want to work towards the serialized cards, or at least get a couple of the serialized cards. But don't worry so much about having to buy these. You do not have to buy anything. Okay? It's not a you have to buy this. It's a this is a cool thing on the market right now, but it's brand new. And unless you are in the mindset that you're going to die tomorrow, you absolutely can wait. And that's probably the best advice I can give you. Just wait 30 days. Prices will drop. And if prices don't drop and they go up, pick them up anyway. Because then at that point, they'll probably just continue to go up. But we'll see what the turnout is when this set finally releases on the 18th. And then, of course, we may even come back 30 days from then in December and talk about how they are doing on the market as far as the price goes. But thank you so much again for watching. I do really appreciate your support. Again, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel as well if you have not already. We do also have a Patreon in the description down below if you want to support the channel in a more monetary sense, but it's definitely not necessary. I just like to advertise that in case none of you knew. And again, let me know in the comments down below which what retro artifact are you excited to find? Are you excited for any of them? Are you only going to be hunting for serialized cards? Let me know. And until then, I've been Ashen Wings and still am Ashen Wings, and I will see you all very soon. Nerd out.